Shalom and welcome to our special Lag Omer edition of Teaching Torah, I guess, right? The title of the class, this is going to be kind of a loose class. We're learning the Zohar and merit of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. It's Lag Omer right now, Hod Shebahod. So the title of the class is My Thoughts Are Not Your Thoughts. And this is predicated on Parshas Noach of the Zohar, 65a. The first question you're probably going to ask is, why are we focusing on Parshas Noach in the Zohar 65a? The answer is like this. On Shabbos, I like to learn the Ben Ish Chai Das Tfuna. It's a tremendous Kabbalah sefer, really bringing down the Masorah of Kabbalah from the Arizal. The Ben Ish Chai is one of the main Yesodot in that Inyan. And if you have ever learned that sefer, if you've ever heard of it or whatever it is, in the first three Hakdamot, really not Prakim of the regular order, it's there's three types of Hakdamas over there. And more than the Ben Ish Chai teaching you, in those Hakdamas, he relies on the Zohar to teach you, and then he draws the context. He does a lot of this. He sets the tone with the Zohar documented and sourced, and you're expected to go get the Zohar off the shelf, which unfortunately many people today are not doing, right? Getting the Zohar off the shelf. So you're supposed to get up, get it off the shelf, look it up, and see for yourself, because he's not going to explain it to you. And really, the entire sefer is in those Zohars. So you're doing a major injustice if you're not going to go and look them up. And one of, I guess, my forte is I really like to look stuff up. So every Shabbos I was going through, looking everything up, and my intention is to do one parak every Shabbos. Or more, because the later prakim are much shorter than the first three Hakdamas. So with that said, I knew that in the next batch of learning, which would have taken place this Shabbos, you're destined to run into a Zohar with the Ben Ish Chai. With that said, it's Lag Omer, Hod Shebahod, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. We're in Sfas Yira Kodesh. Meron's on fire. Hundreds of thousands of people are dancing and eating cholent. And we are duty-bound to learn the Zohar tonight. Opened up the Ben Ish Chai, and it brought us, the first source we came to was Parshas Noach 65a. So it was totally mazel, relying on mazel. There's no Kavanah here as to why I chose this Zohar. I decided to let fate run its course. And with that said, where I was holding in the Ben Ish Chai by the time I opened it up today, we just finished Shviras HaKelim. So Nekudim just came out of Akudim, Shviras HaKelim, the Seven Kings, and into today's learning in the Ben Ish Chai was Hadar, the eighth king who married Mehetavel. You know this stuff, right? Eighth king that didn't die, rectification of Atzilus, major Kabbalistic Inyan. And by the time he was going to quote the Zohar, he was talking about Keter, for whatever reason, in the Hamshacha of the Ben Ish Chai. He was talking about how the Parsufim of Atzilus correspond to different levels in Adam Kadmon. Right, so I think he said Arach Anpin was kashur to, I think, the Mochin of Ak. Right, and everything had its location. Logically, you can deduct it. And again, by the time that the passage that we're Nogeya to ended on the note of Keter. What is Keter? And he said, go look in the Zohar, and I'll tell you all about Keter. So I did. Looked in the Zohar. Just some thoughts as a Hakdama here, and then we're going to go into text and oscillate between text and notes. Okay, just kind of random points. And for what the Zohar is talking about. The Zohar is going to introduce, we're going to find out. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai wants to leapfrog the order of creation. A normal human being is going to pray and daven 3 times a day, You're going to stand in tefillah, right? You're going to request that your lips be open, all these things. You're going to start to daven. Kabbalistically, your peh, your malchus, brings out dibur. That's davening. You're going to stand erect, and you're going to elevate your kol, your voice. That dynamic is essentially, you have elevated to malchus of Atzilus. You are no longer you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to daven. You've stepped out of basically your ego. You're talking to the divine. These things are actually happening when you're davening. You might not be aware of it, but if you become aware of it, your mazel is in high gear when you're davening, and you are basically making audible zeranpin, and you're interfacing with divine consciousness, where you and God are a unique oneness. You're not asking for a shopping list of things you want. That would be antithetical to this level of davening. You should be receiving shefa into your mochen, which is mochen the godless, that you have received the answer or the shefa from God. Right? You are aware of God corresponding with you in the midst of your tefillah. Kabbalistically, that's erech anpin being mislavish in Zohar. Right? So in Zohar, Yudke Vavke proper is Mizgale. The Or Ein Sof goes down as far as Zeranpin in terms of revelation of God. You are the revelation of God. You are in the beard of Erech Anpin. As you daven, you are the revelation of God. Remember, you're no longer you. You're in the unique oneness of God. Or two are really one. I am Hashem your God, no other gods. So as you're davening, you're receiving at the same time. Right? You are connecting to Yudke Vavke. At a level where Yudke Vavke is mislavish deep enough into the partsufim of Atzilus that you can actually have a God moment and yet you can exist at the same time. The reason why the Or Ein Sof can stretch into Atzilus is because of the partsufim, Ben Ish Chai is going to say. Right? In Tohu, in Nekudim, what happens when we try to stretch a keli? Bursts the keli. But because of partsufim, right? I never really saw it this way, but tonight I saw it and I like this. What is a partsuf? What is a partsuf? What's a partsuf? In Kabbalah, what's a partsuf? Exactly. We know it's kind of like, Chachma becomes Abba. You say it's a stronger keli, right? You can hold the or this time. Some will say it's a complete set of 10, right? Abba has 10, Ima has 10, Zerampin and Godless has 10, right? The Vav Kasavos become 10. But this definition is much better. Because let me ask you, when you look at Partsufim, like an image, right? They'll draw, right? A mode of Partsufim. What does it look like? It's like a dip, doesn't it? You'll see like Erech Anpin comes down into the Yesod of the Yesod of Abba. Erech Anpin's Mislavish and the Yesod of Abba, which manifests in Yesod of Atzilus, right? And you'll see a dip. That's a Partsuf. Partsufim are Kalim that become enabled to dip. So it expands. Expanded consciousness so it doesn't burst. So in my Abba, my Chochma, right? If I put too much light in there, it'll burst in a Tohu of Nekudim. Which it didn't really. Abba was one of the ones that didn't break, but for argument's sake, a Keli bursts. Right? But now, in my Partsufim world of Tikkun, right, if I need to extend the Yesod of Abba to Yesod of Atzilus, the reason why I use as Abba and Chochma as the Dugma here, I can now stretch Abba down for the length of Atzilus, which I couldn't have done in Nekudim. So with that said, God enters the world, right? The whole question, is God in the Tzimtzum or not? So if you were to plumb this idea, you would have that answer. It's not the scope of this discussion, but that is the answer, how God interacts inside the Tzimtzum. And the answer is it's neither the Balatanya or the Gra's perspective here. It's a totally different Indian. Right? God is stretching in. Right? And at the same time, he is stretched to you, and it becomes one. Now, I'm not attempting to answer that up, therefore I'm keeping it vague on purpose. The point is you have risen up, and God has risen down. I said on purpose, risen down. You're going to see that's the whole point. Risen down is the stira, right? Is it not? You can't rise down, but God does. It's risen down, you're up, and you are the facilitator to allow Erech Anpin to transfer the Shefa into Zer Anpin. That's all you're doing. You think you're davening, you are being the mazel merkava for the Shefa to transfer Rishus into this world. Then you step out of your tefillah, you did it, and you're back in Asiyah. You just brought the Shefa from basically God himself through Atzilus into this world, derech noga, that was hidden in this whole operation. Got that? So Rabbi Shimon wants to know, what if I don't want to be Zer Anpin today? Right? Everybody's Zer Anpin. When we step into tefillah, we are being Zer Anpin. Not literally, but you are being mislavish, right? God is using your keli to mislavish. Just like we say Avraham was chesed of Atzilus, right? Same type of inyan. When you daven, you are basically lending your keli to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're really no longer you. Because you're never you anyways. It's a miracle that you have consciousness of yourself. So at that moment, you've lost your consciousness. You are back. You've returned to God, Ritzov V'Shuv. Rabbi Shimon says, I want to be in Keser. I don't want to be in Zer Anpin. That sounds like quite a fantastic thing to say, doesn't it? The answer is, which we get at the end of this year, Karbanos are actually Keser. Which is why the Rizal says it's the highest element of the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, we know Kodesh Kadoshim, but you see there's a proper element of the Mizbeach that is, on one angle, the highest element of the Beis HaMikdash. You can say it about everything. But basically, the Karbanos are the aspect of Keser. And we're going to explain what that means. But since there's a dynamic of Keser, there's a dynamic of Keser with Karbanos, Rabbi Shimon says, if that's true, I want to know what that is. I want to investigate what's going on in Keser. Because there's already a Madreg in the world. It's not like I'm saying I want to know the essence of God. Nothing is the essence of God. You don't know the essence of God. But he says, wait a minute. In this world, there is Keser. Which, by the way, we say the Beis HaMikdash is Keser. So, there's already a shaykhis to us in our avoda. It's not totally crazy. It's crazy to think you can get it, but it's not crazy to say that the Madreg of Keser is in this world. And we can pinpoint it. So Rabbi Shimon wants to investigate, what's the ratzon of Keser? It's a good question. And with that, let's go in the text, shall we? That's the Hakdama to Rabbi Shimon. May this be an Eloy, what do you call it? A schus Eloy neshama for Rabbi Shimon, Talmidim, Kabbalah in the world, right? Elevating the sparks of holiness, and that one big last juicy spark, may it go up in the merits, God willing, in our rendition of learning the Zohar in Sfas Ira Kodesh, looking over at Meiron on Lag BaOmer. Maybe so. Okay. Remember, we're learning here on 65A. Is that right? Yeah. I'm not going to read everything. We'll see how it goes in terms of what I actually read. You'll get the point of what the messages are. And I might even throw in a shtickle yeshivish for you. I'm a Rabbi Shimon. Rimosi Yadei L'mayla B'tefillah. I want to know what the Mayla of Tefillah is. I'm paraphrasing. Ki ba l'gal seder atzilas gimel rishonim de erech anpin nikroyim kisra. Mocha de avira umocha stima eich oilim de reisha de lois yada. Sha'asod ein soif baruch hu. Got that? Since, or when, we're coming to reveal the Seder, the order of Atzilus. The 3 parts of Erech Anpin. Don't be confused with the Gimel Rishonim of Stam Keter Chochma Bina. Alright? That's usually what you call the Gimel Rishonim, which, by the way, for the Gerim following out there, it's not an accident the Rosh Hashanah are Ger. Right? The 7 Midot, Zion Mitzvahs, the Mochin, Rosh Hashanah's Ger. It's always a good one. But here it's the 3 aspects of Erech Anpin. And they're called Keser, Stam. And it's also the brain or the mind of the air, mind in the air, and the encapsulated mind, right? Mochastima. And how is this possible? First off, right? Rabbi Shimon's going into this madrega of exploration. The question first is, what are you talking about? Because Keser on this level is called L'reisha Delo is Yada, the unknowable head. And that unknowable head, which for all intents and purposes is Atik, for those following along, is the secret of the Or Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Right? We're already talking about being Maslavish down. This is a level of Lavush, Maslavshis, that you don't need to know about it. And you're not going to know about it. So the question is, why does Rabbi Shimon think he can know about it? Just close it. Whenever I go into discussion, I'm just going to close the book. To explain this point, also I'm going to look at my notes. One second. I'm going to talk and read at the same time. Yeah, we're right on target. Explain a couple points. The Vilna Gaon explains the Gimel Rishonim to Keser very nicely. Right? I'm going to totally paraphrase this. Right? There's 3 parts of Keser. Atik, the highest part. Erech, Keser proper as a sphera. So it's synonymous with Keser. Like Abba, Chochma, Erech, Keser. And there's a level of Keser that's Chochma. Chochma Stima. You're going to love this. You're going to really love this. I'm going to prove to you and show you what Keser is. Okay? You're sitting there. Let's pretend that you are a truck driver. Okay? You are a truck driver. Your name is Jim. And you're a truck driver. So, I represent the Shefa Mochin coming to you, okay? I'm not really here. You're just doing you're being Jim. So I'm going to audibilize how you get consciousness to become a person. Tell him he's a truck driver. You're a truck driver. I am a truck driver. Caught that? Tell him he's a truck driver. Atik. You're a truck driver. Erech. I am a truck driver. Chochma Stima. You have the chochma of how to be a truck driver. You're telling yourself, I'm a truck driver. Hey, look at that truck over there. I like that truck. Why do I like that? Oh, I'm a truck driver. Hey, look at that windshield wiper fluid. How much that cost? $5.95? Why do I? Oh yeah, I'm a truck driver. Why are you so bent on being a truck driver? Because you're getting the message in a veiled way. Hey, you're a truck driver. So you're looking all the time. Hey, I'm a truck. Hey, what? You're looking for it. Looking for the windshield wiper fluid. Looking for the gas prices. Looking for the cabin. Looking for You're looking for it. Your consciousness is that. Because you're being told you are a truck driver. And the guy telling you that is being told really quietly, tell him he's a truck driver. Everywhere you go, right? You're at the gas station, just pumping gas. Tell him he's a truck driver. Hey, you're a truck driver. Hey, I'm a truck driver. And so it's Chachma of Chachma Stima, right? You know the wisdom of it. You know how to look for the deals. You're good at it. It's you. And the other wisdom is the Erech Keser is telling you how to do it. Right? I'm Keser, really. I'm Keser. but I'm telling you how to be you. That's a chachma already. And then Atik says, I have the chachma to tell you how to be you, to tell, right? But I'm not only that. Just because I'm Atik telling you how to tell him doesn't mean that I'm only chachma. The part of me that tells you who and what you are, that's like my lowest level. Like, I am so Neo in the Matrix, right? I'm doing like God stuff. I'm running the world. And in my spare time, as I'm so powerful. I mean, this is the powerful thing of Katz, right? I'm running the world. I'm doing this with everybody. But Jim's my guy. And I'm like, yeah, tell him he's a truck driver, right? Meanwhile, I'm telling Sally and Jane and Bob and Dan and Bob and the whole world. So Kasser's running the world, and it's so powerful, everybody gets their orders ultimately from that level of Atik. Got it? So that's a very easy way of understanding the three levels of Kasser. Now, it's easy because you can understand it, and it's hard because you have no idea what that means. You know, in terms of how does Kasser, a very Chitzoni level. Now, I want to bring in one more point of what the Ben Ish Chai was saying. This is fantastic. The vessels of Atzilus broke. The Kalim fell down to Bria, the 7 kings that died. And the light stayed in Atzilus. And it effectively became Ban. And the light that broke the vessels was Ma. And so now you have Ma repairing Ban. And this is the Indian of the Gevuras and the Chasadim, which also is a definition I never had. Ma was just a great light. There was a Tzimtzum Sheni, and out of Avin Sag of Aki, and this great Yichud, and Ab and Ima were Miyachid, and all of a sudden, Shviras the Kalim. But the light was great. That was Ma. And now he's doing Brudim, which would eventually become Atzilus. Right? We know from Yaakov and the animals, right? Akudim, Nukudim, Brudim. So, Brudim is going to become Atzilus, and Ma is Chesed. Why? It's just a great light. Ma is saying, I am awesome. I'm just awesome. And Ban is saying, what's going on here? I died. My guys are gone. I'm just a spirit here, so to speak. So, Ban becomes the Nukva to Ma, and she becomes Gevura. Now get this. This is the Taich. Why is it Gevura? The 5 Gevuras and 5 Chasadim, and we have to do a Hamtaka to the Gevuras. My great powers of 5 Chasadim are able to be, they're just great. And the Gevura is that it's malleable. Atzilus is malleable. The light is malleable. So you're working with it, right? Right? The strength, it's not just like empty. It's mashu. So when you can construct light with mamshis, that's the hamtaka of the chasadim and the gevuras. That's when man ban are one. That's when you have mehitavel. It's when you have hadar. That's Mashiach effectively in Atzilus. So I thought that was a really nice touch. Back in the Zohar, this definition is good for you. And this is a very high in hidden place, says Zohar. I thought of this a couple days ago, that God is high. And you say, well, that's obvious. But no, God is literally high. We are low. I am with God, you are with God, and we are actually one, but I don't know anything about you, and you don't know anything about me. But we are told by the Torah that we should be brothers, We should love each other and get along and bring the Shekhinah between us, right? But it's very hard. I'm not you and you're not me. And that's technically avodah zarah. We're saying that you exist outside of God. I mean, that's the ikar din, right? So we say, why is life so hard? If right now a tornado were to hit my house, I would say, why? Why, God? Why? Because I don't realize the tornado and me and you and all this is one. I'm saying, how could it be? So the higher you go, literally the higher, right? The more faint it becomes, where I lose sense of self. I'm like a fish in an aquarium, and so are you, and we're just kind of one schmear. If we keep going higher, and if you can imagine this, right? So high, where it becomes light, just one glossy light. And then beyond that, light doesn't shine anymore. That would be the original Tzimtzum. You can conceive of that, right? And it's so high, I don't even recognize God anymore. It's just, and then that beyond that would be the essence of God. Now, up at that level, you have no kesher to that. Is that right? Right now, we don't know what that is. So the Achdus on that level mirrors this level down here, but up there, it's not a problem. I mean, God is simply high. So high, it's Achdus. Or one simple thing. Because we lost our Gevura. That high, just like a plane, right? When you're up in a plane, you look down. Is anybody fighting on Earth when NASA is in the atmosphere? Is anybody arguing on Earth? No. Not from their perspective. They just see the planet. When you see a plane, you see, oh, look, a little swimming pool. Right? No one's arguing. So too, we're arguing here in our existence. But on high, if we don't materialize, then we're not arguing. So therefore, up on high is the Achdus. Down here, we have to believe with Amunah and find with Betachon that same Achdus is here. It's just the light is so hidden and faint. In my world, I don't see the light. I only see myself. I have ego. Right? You have ego. The desk has ego on that level. The base of Mikdash has ego on that level. And that's the concealment of God. But it's the same thing. But you see that we have a Gevura here that keeps us from that Achdus on a natural level, even though it does exist here. So it's very high. Therefore, he stepped into prayer to have revealed these secrets, that it should be l'ratzon lefanai lifnei Hashem Yisborach. He wants to know effectively what is the meaning of life. Because if you ask what is the meaning of life, it will always take it to, if you think about it enough, you'll get it to one question every time. Okay, God, this is all you down here, and you did it, but why did you create? Right? God is good, creation's good, we get there in Makshava, right? Makshava is the highest level we'll get to, we'll see. But then the question is, why did you create Bichlal? So since you're good, creation's good, and I'm good, you're good, but am I not better off not created? Do I really need the tsar? You say I get Olam Haba, but do I really need it in the end? Why'd you create me? So if I ask why'd you create me, then I'm really saying why'd you create Bechlal? Because if I say why'd you create me, same question is why'd you create you? Because we're one. Right? So you're my plight and vice versa. So if we're one on that level, I just say, okay, so if we're all one, why'd you create anything? And that's what Rabbi Shimon wants to know. What was the Ratzon behind the Makshava? Makshava is not God saying, hey, let's think about creating today. The Makshava is what comes down in Shefa. And we know Shefa comes down, and we know thought comes down. I'm thinking, therefore I am, okay? But why? Why do you want me to think, God? Why do you want me to care and think? Why do you want this? Why do you want... You're fine up there. You have your light, your one, it's all good, praises be upon you. And why do you want this schmutz down here? Why do you want ISIS chopping heads off? Why do you want me learning Zohar? Why do you want me thinking? Isn't it better if I don't think? And you just be on high saying how great you are as God? So that's the question. Why do you want to make a dwelling down low? Next Mishnah. Got it? Actually, I want to read this Sulam parish this time. Ka'asher Ratzon Elyon. Yeah? Lamala she'asod keter de erachanpin omed v'niskan al oso ratzon shelo noda v'lo nitfas la'olam she'asod rosh atik shenikra reisha delo isyada nasa keter de erachanpin mishum zeh rosh hasaitim b'yoyser lamala. Basically, another way of saying this is all very high stuff. And it's about the unknowable head. Rosh Hazeha Atzil Masha Atzil, that this head, Keser, right? Atzilus is the head. Maybe this is what we're saying, the head of Yaakov. Right? Yaakov is Zeranpin. And that's exactly what we're saying. Rabbi Shimon saying, okay, I got the Zeranpin thing, no problem. I step in a David, I'm Zeranpin. Right? Not literally. We're saying I'm stepping into that levush. Right? It's a Zman Bracha that I get the Moichin of Zohar. But the head is really Erechanpin. So we know that when Yaakov, the parts of Yaakov has Mochin and becomes Yisrael and Mochin the godless, he's receiving from Erechanpin. So the head of Atzilus, effectively, is when Yaakov becomes the head of Yisrael. Right? Which is interesting, because the head of Esav becomes Shalom, right? The Gematria Esav Shalom, Machpelah, right? And so now we say the head of Yaakov, this is that whole thing we're talking about. The head of Yaakov is now going to be the head of Yisrael, which we always see as Yisrael Rosh Li. And for those following along, by the way, in Bereshis, when Yaakov is a Beidel, and he pours libation on the rock, and he has a dream with the Sulam. By the way, we're learning the Sulam, apropos, Mazel. Right? He says, this is the house of God. Anyone that knows the Rambam knows there's 3 requirements of Mashiach. Goliath, right? Kibbutz Goliath, build the base of Mikdash. Was it one? I forget. Mashiach, anointed. If you look at the Psukim, Yaakov went to Beit El. That is not a drasha. This is one of the places the base of Mikdash in the Chumash is not a drasha. It is pshat, right? He says this is the house of God, Beit El, Temple Mount. The source of grafting the nations in and Kibbutz Goliath is right there. You'll be a blessing for the families on the earth, continuing the bracha from Avram Avinu. And it says he poured oil on its head. Now it's the libation of the rock, but if you look in the entire Tanakh, only by 3 people does it ever say they poured oil on their head. Yaakov here on the rock's head, Aaron, when he got the Kuna Gedola, and Elisha anointing, I think it was Elisha, Eliyahu or Elisha, I forget, Yehu. The kings. Thus, Yaakov, as you can see, is when you read it also, it says that he had a dream and a Sulam's head reached Shemayim. If you look in the Hebrew, it makes sense to read it, and that perhaps not the Alpi Kabbalah, that the Sulam's head did not make it to Shemayim, but Yaakov's head, right? And Yaakov may be a mushal for the Sulam, i.e., the reason why the Sulam calls his parish on the Zohar Sulam, bridging the worlds, that Atzilus and Asiya really are connected more than we know. And Yaakov is that, and then the head of that would be the sanctity of the head of Yaakov, which we say that's why he put the stones around his head, to show the sanctity of Yaakov's head. So it all makes sense, if you think into it. And so therefore, this head, right, the Godhead, in our lower world is the emanating into a lower world, right? So God comes to a low level for him, which is the head of Atzilus, which is very high for us. And he emanates thoughts into our world, and then those thoughts are emanated into our world through man. Right? How do thoughts come into our world? God created a chariot to the divine called man. Man thinks, therefore he is. And we have the world goes around. Man is the king over the world, right? And the base of Mikdash is the Khatimah on that. So our thoughts really drive society. And that's what makes man special, is that we think and nobody else does. And this takes place in the 3 levels of Keter. Right? The Godhead is in the 3 levels of Keter, right? Tell him that he is, hey, you are, I am. Then I am is revealed to the guy stepping into Zohar. If he's lucky, if he's davening right, he'll go about his life realizing who he is, what he is, revelation of self, which means he's thinking. Those thoughts will come into the world, and he should be able to make an impact on this world. If he is a successful Baal Shefa. Haratzon shel ha'makshava Eloyina l'kesra de'erech anpin. So God does know why he created the world. And I'm saying God lowering himself, right? He brings that ratzon to interface with our world. So as far as we're concerned with God consciousness, God comes to the table knowing why he created the world. Which means when you approach the king, you could have a havamina in a weird kind of way to say, hey, why'd you create the world? Right? It's not so far beyond that you can't conceive the question. Meaning God approaches you in tefillah, and therefore Rabbi Shimon saying to himself, hey, if God's coming to the table with this ratzon, I'm going to ask. I'm going to go into prayer and say, hey, why did you create this thing? That's called reshus. He had permission. After v'acher sheniskem v'china rosh nikra makshava Eloy, hu lirdof achrav acher reisha de lo yada l'kabel araso. Rabbi Shimon wanted to enter this level of the unknowable head, and he wanted to receive the light. So it's not so much to say, I'm going to know why God created the world. What he wanted to do was approach that chamber, okay, and with intention. And if the mechanism of the world works, I will have received that mochen. Right? If I step into Erech Anpin, b'kavana, then by the dictation of the world, I should have received why God created the world. Now, I have to meditate on that maybe my whole life, but it's in my head, right? I'm triggering in my mind that thing. My job is to be a Talmud Chacham and a Baal Nister and really Mashiach to understand and isolate, get rid of the static to say, I got it. I know why God created the world. But you can't really, because it's called the unknowable head. It's not called the almost unknowable head. But technically you know because you received it. But it doesn't mean you know it consciously. You just know for a fact that it's in me. Right? So as long as you go through the motion, you'll know for a fact that it's in you. And you at least, what you do from there, I don't know. Because you're probably not going to get it still anyways. But, anyways. Aval parsa echas nifrasha bein reisha de lo yada ketra mitok parsa zo beredifis makshava ilyoina ketra acher orosh reisha de lo yada or magia ve'ena magia alav ki al parsa ma'akevis ilav. So there's a, what do you call that? A barrier. So God brings his thoughts down through 3 levels of Keter. You with me? And there's a barrier. It's not coming through. Right? You're not going to get that revelation. It's just not going to happen. And the thoughts stop in Keser. So it reaches the world, but yet it doesn't. Right? Kind of like mati la mati. It reaches, but it doesn't reach. You know it, but you don't know it. Parsama, it's holding it back. V'kach ana parsa meir, masha meir, v'lo mafarsa lamata, Okay, Makshavi al Yoina Meira Bahara Stuma Mulcha Stima, or Sheina Yadol Mulcha Levira, or Makshavi Asma Shoketra Hubachina Lo Yada. God's thinking, you know he's thinking, you're thinking, and you know what? My thoughts are not your thoughts. You have no idea what God's thinking. But you know he is thinking. You're aware that God is thinking. And you're thinking. That's about as high as you're going to get. Skip to the next Mishnah. Az ha'oira zo shel makshava shel noda hach v'haris v'haris v'medis u'me'ira b'gimel u'miyutim hanal shehem ima she'ena yadua b'mocha devira v'eno noda b'ketra v'lo nigla b'mocha destima v'kach ha'oris ha'makshava shel noda shehi reishad lo yada v'ha'oris ha'parsa u'me'irim yachad. Perush ki ha'oris reishad lo yada hach v'chazer v'yahori avarsa l'makom l'malchus sha'al yidei zeh chazer l'kol madrega gimel kelim bina tferes malchus sheniflo v'meina v'nishlamu shu b'ketachol bina tferes malchus l'kelim all 10 spheres to iris nekuda. The light's gonna come down. You with me? The light's gonna come down and strike the parsa. What's gonna happen then is you didn't exist right now. I don't know where you were, who you were, and I really don't care. Right? You were living life, whatever you were doing. One second. Doing good. Yeah. Before I explain, I want to give a mushal. Did you ever see Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade? And when he got to the end of the movie, there was 3 stunts he had to do, right? He had to kneel before God. The blades were coming. He got through that one. And then he had to spell out God's name, the rocks. And then he got through. Then there was an invisible bridge. And faith got through, and he got the night. That's the 3 levels of Kesser. Why? Because they're like a lock system. So you can get up, let's say, through Malchus into Zah, and your Miskav into Erech, right? Once you reach Kesser, you're not going to get through the next 2 levels of Erech proper in a Vatik. Right? You would have to be so ninja jiu-jitsu to fight God, basically. Right? You would have to outthink God. Because remember, his thoughts are coming down. Right? So you would have to be going up, outthink him. Obviously, you're not going to win that. Therefore, those thoughts are coming down through those chambers. And it becomes makshava. By the time it's lowered by hitting the parsa, it's a makshava. It's a mamish thought coming from God. It's going to penetrate into malchus of Atzilus. And remember, you're lost. You don't matter. You were out being Jim, the truck driver. And you might be having a great life. It's great being Jim, right? You know how to spot every thing for your truck. You're loving it. The women are saying, hey, Jim, you're quite the truck driver. And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty good, All of a sudden, guess what happened to Jim? He got a puncture. His tire blew. Now all of a sudden he's going, oh, this is horrible. I hate this truck. It always gets cut on this turn. Why do I always have to get the truck from the flat tire? Why is it always Jim? Wait, hey, Jim, you were the guy 5 minutes ago. You were saying how you were the guy. All of a sudden now you're hating life. Why me? What it is Jim doesn't think being Jim. Jim is being told what to think. Tell him he's a truck driver. You're a truck driver. I am a truck driver. Now, Jim has to think for himself. What am I going to do? Who do I call to change the tire? I don't know anybody over here. What am I going to do? I'm going to get fired? Now Jim's thinking. Now he's really being Jim. Before he wasn't being Jim. He was being the avodah zarah of Jim, who he thought he was down here. When everyone was like, hey, we're all with you, Jim. It's all Achdus, man. Go you. Now we're fighting with Jim. Because the thought came down. Jim's got to think. And the reason why he's got to think is because you're thinking, right? I would say, hey, can you call the guy to help change my tire? Nah, I got my management to do. Sorry, Jim. You always do this to me. Why are you such a rude guy? Wait a minute, Jim. 5 minutes ago, this was your boy. Meaning, the entire Bria is now thinking. And they're upset at God that they lost their ego. Because I was the guy, you were selling beer in the gas station, and the women came in, we were talking, it was great. The egos got along. Right? I'm a cool guy, you're helping me, we're all great. It's ego! And we get along with ego. You make me look good, I make you look good. Now, God took away the ego. It's like a tefillah. God, why? Why? And the manager's going, why? Why is this me? And I don't care about you, and you don't care about me. But really we do. But I'm too busy thinking. And you're too busy thinking. Because God sent the thought down. That means you rose up to receive the thoughts of God. Now there's a gym. Now there's a world. Now there's a gas station. Now there's a planet Earth. Now there's a Keter, Chochmah, Bina, Dan. All of it seems is saying, whoa, where did I come from? Where did I come from? And God says, oh, you mean Anochi Hashem Elokecha? Because you're quite aware of God now. But now you gotta really to do the davening. Trust in God. It's okay, Jim. Tires break. It's okay. You survived the last one. You'll survive this one. Just daven. And he says, I don't believe in that davening stuff. But if you were just daven, you'd get the unique oneness. You'll elevate the Erech Anpin, and you'll think like God. But you don't want to. You're convinced that your thoughts are better. If you would relinquish your thoughts and rise above your thoughts, you would know what God's thinking. But you don't know what God's thinking, so you're saying, what am I going to do? The answer is, if you are a Navi, you would know what God's thinking, you wouldn't freak out. But you don't want to think like a Navi. You want to say, what am I going to do? What you're really saying is, God, what are you going to do? Because I don't know what you're thinking. Give me a flat tire on my busy work Tuesday. Got it? So, again, to paraphrase, all of Atzilus now is in shock, like a baby being born. All systems operative. I wasn't even aware I was alive. I thought I was living being the avodah zarah that I was, of myself. Now I gotta really be me. I'm no longer the cool guy, right? I'm just a guy panicking, trying to be alive. That's actually the real life. And then the parsa, you rose up. You didn't realize you rose up. Because now you're davening against your will. So now, as soon as you go up, you're going to be pushed down into the world. You know, hey, you got a flat tire there, buddy. Yeah, what are we going to do about it? I don't know. We got to check it out. You got a hammer? Right, now we're thinking. But you don't want to think, but you're thinking. Because God pushed those thoughts into the world. Now, for this guy, he's loving it. I've always wanted to try to change a tire on a semi-truck. I'm loving life. So I'm here to help. God's here to help you. Right? I sent you the helicopter, the fire truck, that muscle, right? Here's this guy. Jim, relax. God's sending you this guy. So then when this guy has a bad day, he'll send you, Jim, to him. That's why God's great. Remember, it's one light. We all get along. We're here to help you. You don't need to think about anything. Now, it comes out of the time. Okay, everything systems go. And we're going to come down to the next part. There are the three heads of Erech Anpin. They light up together with the unknowable head, and it's one madrega. Right? So now God is in thought. And we are employed to think like God. There are 9 chambers that are made 9 chambers, right? So there's the highest level of Kesser and its association with the bottom 2. And then there's the middle level of Kesser and its association with those 2. And the bottom level of Kesser and its association with those 2. 9 Heicholos. And the 10th chamber is the fact that you still don't know what we're talking about. It's the unknowable head. So Kesser, in its highest level, becomes a full set of 10 functions. Heicholos. It's higher than Sfirot. It's like where God dwells when he enters this world. That's high stuff. That means he's thinking it all through in one snap of a finger in those chambers. Okay. And these 9 chambers are Kesser, and they're not a Ruach, not a Neshama, and nobody can stand there. Right? So nobody can get up there. If you ever met a guy that said, hey, I was davening and I had a full Eloy of the 9 chambers. No, you didn't. That's why Indiana Jones is a bad marshal in real life, right? He didn't clear those blades and stuff. The Or Ein Sof in light is shining into that unknowable head. And she'ein makshava tfisa bo. No makshava can be typhus in those chambers. Meaning, just like we saw Ma was the Chesadim making malleable the lights of Bon in Brudim towards Silas, correct? You cannot take your mind and project in those chambers and make it malleable. Navigate, right? You know, when you think things through, right? You say, okay, I got 10 things to do today. Okay, I gotta go to the store, then we'll go to the Midrachov, I'm gonna pay some bills, and I gotta go, right? You can do that, right? You cannot do that there. You cannot there's no meditation and pathways that you can do to typhus makshava shama. Haratzon shel teisha ha'oiris the gimel reishin erchanpin shekulam aimdim b'makshava dehainu b'imkoimin me'erchanpin nikre makshava shechad mehem b'cheshbin. 1/10 of that world is makshava. Meaning, it's not devoid of makshava, it's just not entirely makshava. Tell him he's a truck driver. Was that a makshava? Yes. Was it my entire makshava? No. Therefore, there is makshava up there. It is happening. But it's only one of the 9. One of the 10, one of the 9. And we are again, to exclude the unknowable head, which is 10. So the meaning of life is up there in makshava. I mean, it is happening. It's a fractal. God is all the time saying, this is why I'm creating, this is why I'm creating. If you are really keen, all the time, you would be getting the message from God, that's why he's creating the world. And you would say, man, God, you are amazing. I love you. I love life. Right? Hey, we just had a tornado come through your neighborhood. Isn't that great, Dave? Yes, God, it's amazing. That's why you created the world. I love it. But I'm not there. I'm not able to understand the ratzon of life on that level. Why? Because my makshavas cannot be typhus in that mechanism of the heichalos above. I know there is a meaning of life. I have emunah. I believe. I try to trust God in this world where there's not the 9 heichalos. But I really don't know why God is doing this and why he created the world like this. I wish I knew. I have some svaras why, but would I bet everything on it and say I know why? No. And the irony is he's telling you all the time. Everything you do, he's telling you, hey, that's why I created the world. but nobody can grasp it. Okay. We're doing good. Actually, we're doing very good. You covered the whole notes by ball pen. That's good. Okay. So the 9 Heikolas, Einam Omdin, Lovuchinas Ratsu, Lovuchinas Makshava Elyoina, Shirachan Pin, Taisim Bav, Einam, Taisim Elud, Tes Heikolin, Nimsoyim, Oindian Kol, Soidis Amuna. Those 9 chambers contain every secret of Amuna. The Kul Elu Ha'iris Mesod Makshav Elyoina, Shehi Erachan Pin, Mekublim, Mehem Kulam Kul Tes Heikolin, Nikraim Ein Sof. Just like we said, God enters the Simsum as a levush, a Stalshalis, that Erech Anpin eventually is Mislavish and Zah. This actually is akin to the Or Ein Sof. Those 9 chambers are so infinite. It's the levush of the Or Ein Sof into our world, and it still resembles the Or Ein Sof. Ki'ad kan ha'oiris magiyim ve'ena magiyim. They're really not here. God's thoughts are here, but they're not here. God's here right now. Right? God's with me right now. But I don't know about it. God's with you right now. I don't know about it. He's with us and as one right now. I don't know about it. I just know it's true. Right? It's true the whole spectrum. But it becomes the most true in Kesser, because that's really where the creation begins. That's where Bereshis is. Bereshis is not back then, 5,775 years ago. It's up there. Got that? We think it's behind us. It isn't. It's up there. So when you get stuff forward in time, it actually came from above. So you get all the different directions. Ka'ashia me'ira machshava shelo nada mimihi me'ira dahaino mocha davira kanal. Interestingly enough, the problem, this is awesome. God's thoughts are quantum physics. That was my chiddush. In Kesser, on that level, he says, it's not known where the thoughts come from. Right? Imagine such a thought process where you got hit from different angles. Like a ninja, right? Kind of like, imagine if I were to say, couch, window, book, wall, lamp. You say, oh, okay, yeah, for sure. That means take out the garbage at 9 o'clock. Got it. Like code, right? The thoughts are coming, and you can't know where they came from. You can't know. So down here in this world, too, if we mimic it, right? When you get a thought, you don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was you that inspired me, if I heard it subliminally on the radio in my kid's room. Somebody shouted from outside, made me think of it. I don't know, and you can't know. All you know is you think. And the good thing is it's mazel, and you can't stop it. So when you're bored saying, man, there's nothing to think about, this is boring. Guess what? That means that you're going to be called up to duty really soon and get thoughts. And you say, there's nothing to think about. Nothing ever happens. But God always gives you things to think about. And it's mazel. You're going to go to the store and you're going to hear this thing. God gets the thoughts, but you'll never be able to map them out. It's always quantum physics. The thoughts come and you won't know where they came from. And they're all enclosed and hidden in Bina. By the time you're thinking, you don't know where it came from. That's why Bina is the first level of Yesh. Right? The Chachma, if you have Chachma, just say thank God, because you don't know where it came from. And we're getting towards the end here. Baruch Hashem. Yeah, this is good stuff. Yeah, here we go. This is the end. Ready? Ubesod hakorban kisha'ola ala mizbeach nasu kol elu hayichudim Hagimel Reishin Derech Anpin Bereishin Dolo Is Yada. Ubina Biro Sherech Anpin Al Derech Shinizber Ad Hine. Shema Dechila Niskesher Kol Zev Ezek Be'ez Yeridis Aparsa O Shebina Teferis Malchus the Kol Madrega Choizrim and Makom Atachto Madregason Be'elyon Ma'alim Az Imayim Gam is a Tachtoin Liyoso Devuk Be'em Imsoyim Elu Bina Teferis Malchus Choizrim Madregason Shem Mekashrim Kol Atachton Be'elyon, meaning when the thoughts come, everyone back to work. Yeah? Everyone back to work. You know, all the Atzilus is in full Mashiach mode. Molchin the godless, Bina's operating, the steam engine's going out of nowhere. And you are doing that, but you just don't know it. Because the more you're not holy, and the more klippa you've become, you're gonna just be, God forbid, when you start thinking, you're gonna say, hey, time for the football game. The Bears are on TV. Wow, I wonder if he's gonna throw a long bomb today. Right? That's where you're going to be thinking. But the more holy you become, you would effectively have a potential of Mashiach. Meaning, if you are aware of God's thought, you would be called to duty like a malach, or tzov. But if you're not holy, you're being called to duty might be Vern, take the garbage out at 9 o'clock. Why did my tire get blown out? So your job is to not be lazy in this world and think about mundane things. The more you're thinking holy, you'll be called to duty to have God employ you to think for Him. Or to think with Him. And then that's what we're calling all systems go. When you're aware of Chachma, Bina, Das, I gotta do Chesed, all those things. Otherwise, it's Mislavish in Klippa. Right? I'm doing you a favor that I didn't kill you when you asked me to take out the garbage. Right? I'm doing you a favor that I even thought about it. Chochmah. Right? You don't want to be on that level. So this is the idea of everything going up and then coming down. When the creation is lifted and the thoughts come down and when everything is light and enlightened, this and this. There's a zivug of bringing out the chesadim and the secret of enlightenment, precious light, and then the lights of chesed are in chochmah, which is godless, and then when he comes out, all the madregas in the secret of above, Bina Zeranpin, he's talking about the whole rectification, and all the thoughts are produced. Praiseworthy are your portions of the tzaddikim, u'ma'alim ma'inukvin u'miyachtim u'yuchludim gvohim ha'amorim ha'olim hazel olim haba ki noichlim shnei oilamos. That's what I want to say about. We have notes to go through. That's the gist, right? So the idea of the korban is a korban has a process whether you like it or not. The korban is God's technology, right? It's like a distraction of engineering. When we are lifting up korbanos, it is to receive the makshavas of God. So therefore, Shimon knows there's such a metzias. Now in Galus, we say that we daven in place of korbanos. So when you daven, again, you're lifting up the creation. It works. It's a process. The korbanos are the levush in this world to the process of God's thoughts coming down. It's a tolda, right? It's a tolda of the creation working properly. When it's in Galus, that tolda is in tefillah. Again, you can either acknowledge that you had a flat tire because you sinned and now you need to bring a korban to the base of Mikdash, or you can daven on the spot and that's your kapara. Meaning, we either acted out in tefillah or we acted out in the base of Mikdash. That's the secret of the korban. Milking the godless, again, all these things. Tefillin dafka, right? What is tefillin? Right? Lashon tefillah, the idea of the head. So when your tefillin is an aiding in that endeavor. And the point now, and I want to end on this note, so get ready, yeah? The point is, this is how the creation is constantly running up and receiving, churning out. This is, if you were to see a map of creation, it would look like this. Right, the running and returning, Ratzov Shuv, the Mayan Nukvin, Simsum Shani, it is happening. This is why you have good days and bad days. Right? Bad day, good day. Bad day, good day. And the very simple issue is when God says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe says, I want to see your face. God says, no man can see my face and live. This is why. Right? Because when Moshe is thinking, God's not thinking. There's a delay. When Moshe rises up to think, he's not interested in seeing God's face. God said, here I am. Moshe said, no, not looking. And Moshe says, I want to look. God says, no, I'm not thinking about it. My thoughts, not your thoughts. Life is staggered. And the answer is like this. What is the meaning of life? And here's the answer. Ready for this? This is actually the answer. The answer is, I don't want to think about it. That's the meaning of life. Because God makes you think. When you're having a rough day, you're thinking. Yeah? You're saying, why? Why? That's the meaning of life. What you're really saying is, if you listen to your own mind, ready? Think about when you had a bad day. You got in your mind? A little meditation, everybody. Think in your mind of the last time you were upset. Yesterday, day before. Were you upset? Were you saying, why? 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 Now think and realize all you are saying is, why? Now, you weren't complaining that it happened. What you were complaining about is, why do I have to think about it? If I have rent due tomorrow, and I don't have the money today, is there a good chance that I won't be evicted? Will somehow the money come? So the money will come. If I take a loan, whatever it is. But I'm saying, this is horrible, man. I just want to, why? Why does life have to be this way? What you're really saying is, why do I have to think about it? That's all you're saying. I'm okay with it, God. I'll ask for the money, I'll get a loan. But why do I have to think about it all day long? Will they say yes? Will my friend answer the phone? All I'm saying is, why do I have to think about it? That's the meaning of life. That God makes you think. And here's the kicker. Ready? We're going to close this point. My thoughts are not your thoughts. God is so strong that he doesn't have to think. There's something above Makshava in those 9 Heicholos. So high. It doesn't think. And you don't know what it is. You know why you don't know what it is? You're addicted to thinking. You are not strong enough to not think. You are not strong enough to say, bad stuff happened, not thinking about it. You're not strong enough. Only God is strong enough to not think about it. And you know why you're not strong to think? You know why you're not strong enough? Because you love to think. Right? If I ask you perplexing questions, do you think about it? Yeah. So imagine God is the master of making people think. Hey, Jim, how about that truck over there, buddy? Oh, yeah, I'm a truck driver. I love it. I love it. Wait a minute. You love it. But if there was a flat tire, you'd hate it, right? Well, yeah. So what you're really saying is you like to think about it until you don't like to think about it. And you're not strong enough to not think about it because really you love thinking about it. We love thinking and we don't want anyone else to tell us what to think about. And even though we have the right to say, okay, I don't want to think about it. Which is, enlightenment is not thinking about it. You're not strong enough. You are not strong enough to turn off your mind and open up your higher levels of consciousness to ascend in the Gimel Rishonim of Kesser, 3 Kesarim, to find out why God is making the tire go flat and making my life worth being created over and over and over again. We'll end on that point. So what is the meaning of life? That, one second. I can't read my notes. I have no idea what this says. I wrote it really sloppy. Wait, I don't know what it says. This consciousness, where you totally rewrite the map of this world, is called Gan Eden Elyon. Right? If you got to the point where you can say, of course the tire went flat and it's not a problem. You have no kesher to this world. You are enlightened on the highest order that we're talking about. That's really the level of like the Isha, the real essential woman, right? Your schar, your portion of the end of days, right? You are at that place where in the world to come, you won't fret the tire being flat. You'll say, hey, my tire got flat. I wonder if Bob's going to come help me today. Because you know for a fact that God is good and he's creating you for the sake of Bob to do that mitzvah. But in this world, it's a question if Bob will do the mitzvah, and am I a rush for having a flat tire, and you're thinking things you don't want to think about. In the world to come, God will flourish righteousness that you will want to think about your friend Bob, because of course Bob likes to change tires as a chance for a mitzvah. No ego involved. You'll be strong enough to think beyond yourself. Right? When the thoughts come down, it's not going to be, woe is me. You're going to say, thank God for the world. And you'll look at everybody else out there, and people will get along, and mitzvahs will be absolutely lishma, the chasadim in the chachmas, meaning of life revealed, the lights of Kesser, and in this world, we try every day to daven, to connect to those lights, and God willing, the base of Midrash will be built soon, so we can get back to the Karbanos and enjoy and experience the thoughts of God and have a hint to know what God is thinking about. That is the essence of our lives, Mazel and Shefa. Have a great Lag BaOmer. Shkoyach for everybody. I hope this Zohar message did justice to the Inyan of Lag BaOmer, Sfas, Meron, Rabbi Shimon.